Assalamu alaikum. It's really just a beautiful day today. We're getting a little bit of a spring thaw, I guess. Just loving the weather. All winter I've been kind of really hating, especially the end of the winter. You get tired of hauling water and dealing with all the ice and the animal bins, and so it's just nice to have not have to worry about freezing water, etc. So I'm giving the goats a little water today, and I thought I'd work on the last few topics for difficulties that you might not think of when you're living off the grid. So I feel like this is really an important issue that is overlooked by people coming from the city, or from a different lifestyle, to live off the grid, and that is being flexible. In my experience, it's very important to be flexible, just because tomorrow is not promised, and you never know. You might be making a living this year raising calves, and next year, the bottom might drop out of the market, and then so it's kind of, in my opinion, imperative to be flexible. Kind of always have your hand in 2 or 3, 4 or 5 pots every time you see an opportunity. Go with it. See if you can make something out of it, because that's kind of the key to success in this lifestyle, in my opinion, is that you have to be flexible, be able to, when times are hard, you got to have another way. And I did have a couple that I met. They came from Colorado, and they moved here from Colorado because I guess they checked out farmland for homesteading. It turned out that this part of Michigan was pretty high on the list for reasonable farmland. So they bought a 10-acre farm, and they started growing produce, organic, and I think it was the lady that was doing most of the work. So I think she was going to like 3 or 4 farmers markets per week, selling all the produce. And they also did meat chickens, and they trying to think what else. There was one other thing. There's one other thing they sold. I can't remember. But I mean, they came from the city and they bought a place and they jumped in with both feet. And there was, even at some points, I felt like, wow, she's, I've been doing this all my life and she's outdoing me. I mean, she was really hustling. And I guess her husband, he was working full time at Menards, and that was kind of helping to supplement their, income. But they were, I thought they just did really good. But after 2 or 3 years, the market, as far as produce, what they were doing, kind of bottom dropped out of it, and they were kind of stuck with, not knowing where else to go, what else to do, and they ended up just selling everything and moving back to the city after maybe 3 or 4 years. So it was pretty disappointing, but I think that at the end of the day, like I say, the flexibility is really important, because you know, chickens might not sell this year, so you got to have something else. And it's also really, I think, good if you can grow most of your own food. We try to grow most of our own vegetables here, and I think it's really good if you can grow most of your own food, because that is going to alleviate a lot of your stress when income gets tight, or the market falls out of whatever you got your hand in at the time. So I'm always looking for some kind of small business opportunity that I can do along with working here. And I just think it's so important to be flexible. When I first bought this place and started, I was actually doing feeder calves, and I had bought 50 hutches from a friend, and I was getting feeder calves at like maybe a week or 2 weeks old and raising them up to 600 pounds. And I was doing pretty good at it, but at doing it. But the thing for me, a lot of land that I had was rented. My father had rented, I don't know, 40 or 50 acres, I guess, if you'd add it all up. In hay, and then we probably had 30 acres of corn that we did together. So after my dad passed, it was a lot of work for me to keep it all up by myself, and I was quite a bit younger too. I was like in my mid-20s, and I just felt trapped. I didn't want to do it, so I let that go, and I actually started working for kind of like a commercial-sized farmer part-time. But it just didn't pay for me to raise calves. The only way that I could make ends meet raising the calves was if I grew my own, all my own hay for them, and at least a portion of my corn. By doing that, if I could raise it cheap enough and didn't have any major crop failures or anything, or drought, I was able to, make a decent living, decent turnover with the calves. But it's a lot of work, and it's just something you got to kind of, either you are or you aren't. You get to get into it, and you just figure out what you want to do, and take it from there. But like I say, you got to be flexible. You can't be stuck on one idea, because it might be a good idea this year, but next year it might not. Nobody might want them kind of puppies anymore, and so now you're stuck with a whole bunch of dogs that won't sell. So it's just kind of good to have I think it's really important to just not come with one mindset. You're just going to do just this, but you have a couple things and find out which thing works, and always have a backup plan. And the same thing even with like, say, building or anything when it comes to living off the grid, farmstead, anything you do, just have a second plan, part 2, part 3, whatever idea that always have another out in case it doesn't work. For example, of this is on my chicken pens with these game chickens. Of course, they can fly like a pheasant almost, so they got to have tops on the pens in order to keep them safe and to keep them in. But money wise, the chicken wire, heavy duty chicken wire, is really expensive, almost unaffordable for me. So I came up with another idea of using these wood slats. They're $15. I can get them for about $15 a truck pickup load, and if I paint them, they'd probably last longer. But that's just an example of, I started off using chicken wire, and it just was so costly. And the good stuff, you got to get the heavy duty stuff, whereas in a year or two, regular chicken wire will rot. I was getting the hinged beagle wire, and I think that was about $400 for 150 feet. It's 6 feet tall by 150 feet, and it's heavy duty. I mean, it lasts forever, but it is expensive. So in times when economically, when things were a little tight, I didn't have much money, I just, came up with another plan B and used the wood slats and, make it work. A good off-the-grid motto is, if I can remember how it goes, fix it, make it do, fix it, use it up, make it do or do without. That's so. The next challenge is keeping a tight schedule, and this is really I think being able to multitask like we talked about earlier and keeping a tight schedule are probably the two key things that will bring you success in off-grid living, in my opinion, because like I was talking about the family before that came from Colorado, you always have to be able to plan for failure, or you can't really always plan for failure, but you always have to have a second, be flexible, have another way out, because there's always going to be failure when you least expect it. There's always going to be something that goes wrong, and keeping a tight schedule is the only thing that is going to somewhat help you make up for when things go wrong. If you keep a tight schedule, you can plan for, like, especially in our situation, because we use horsepower for our local transportation. You can make up for it, the slowness of the horse, if you plan, keep to a tight schedule. If you every other Monday you go to town and you get everything you need for 2 weeks. If you keep to a tight schedule, then you can make it makes up a lot for what you lack or what you lose in going off the grid, what you lose in the speed of technology and so forth. And it also keeps things running smooth, because you have to look at it like a business or factory or whatever. You're the boss, so keeping that tight schedule, you got to be the one who's always making sure the wheel's going around, or otherwise it's not gonna go around. If you for example, doing chores for me is about 3 hours a day. And if I keep to a tight schedule, I could even work another job if I get up on time and get my chores done early enough. I can still have enough time to go do, a handyman job or do some other stuff and still make money, when sometimes, feeding is not really making money. It's more just surviving. You got, no matter what, whether you're selling it or not, or there's snow or not, the animals got to eat. So it's not like they're getting paid a lot of money to just feed, especially in the winter. For me anyways, I have to do something else to help supplement that at times, especially when the economy's bad. So I would definitely say keeping a tight schedule is key, and it's definitely underrated. Like, everything we do is planned. We have a schedule that we stick to religiously here, where we get up early, we feed and water, and then we do so many repairs a day. We fix pens a day, so do worming or whatever's got to be done to care for the animals. You do so much of it per day, and so that we don't get too far behind. And like some of the stuff is seasonal, like every spring this time of year we always retighten all our fences so that way the livestock uh, doesn't get out. And it's just about keeping to the schedule is really important. And that's something that I noticed, that coming from another uh, another culture or another setting, coming from the city. It's in the city, according to city life, I guess it's a little bit easier to just drop everything and go take a day off and go sightseeing or whatever. And for us with that, we can take a day off whenever we want, but we can't do it at the drop of a hat. We have to plan for it. And I think that really helps in limiting us from being, overly frugal, because we can't just drop everything at a whim and just run and go here and there, and then, oh man, we spent too much money, we shouldn't have done all that. It's something we got to plan for. So if we want to go on a vacation, we need to know ahead of time, in the very least, a couple weeks ahead of time, so we can plan for someone to do chores, make sure there's enough feed around. I mean, to go somewhere is a big job. It's not impossible, but it's enough of a job that, I'd say on average, maybe I'm fortunate to be able to get away maybe 3 times a year. Um, but I don't like to go for a long period of time, like, more than a week. I would prefer not to go for more than a week if possible, just because so much can happen when you're gone and you got people doing chores for you, and they don't really know what to look for. They don't know nothing about raising chickens. They just took a speedy course on how to feed them real quick while you're gone. So you know it is a big responsibility, but you got to do something with your life. And to me, I think it's very rewarding, being able to live off the land. And it makes me feel closer to God, like I can uh, almost like you're there in a sense, when from a religious perspective, like you can it makes it more real to you. Like, if you think about how they traveled, and then also traveling with horsepower and etc. It makes it feel more real. So that's one thing that I do appreciate about it. And yeah, the schedule is very important. That's something I noticed right away. They, the two families that stayed from at different times, but they were, let's just drop everything and go drive, an hour over here and see this ad that we saw in the paper. Let's just drive over there and see what's going on. But in one situation, I told them that we can't, because it's 90 degrees out and the produce has to be watered. If we just skip that and leave, skip this whole day, by tomorrow, that a lot of that stuff is going to be burned up. So we can't. We gotta plan for it. But anyways, that you know, I think that's a big key, is being able to keep a tight schedule. It will definitely make living off the grid more successful. You get a schedule that you're used to and you're comfortable with, and just keeping that as much as we possibly can. There's always going to be days when things go wrong, but keeping to that will always make things go so much smoother. You always know what's going on. If you, for some reason, are not available, then your family knows already what to do, because on Mondays we always do this, and Wednesdays we do that, and so on, and so forth.